Economic dynamics overall remain modest but positive. It is clear that a whole range of factors affects the pace of economic growth, including external pressure and terrorist attacks on industrial and infrastructure facilities. Of course, such attacks have had no, and cannot have any critical consequences. But they do cause us harm, of course. That is obvious. We understand this and apparently know it. I would like to emphasize once again that we need to strengthen the country's sovereignty and increase efficiency both in defense and security and in the socio-economic sphere. Despite the recent terrorist attacks I have already mentioned, our trade infrastructure is operating efficiently and sustainably. Work is certainly being carried out under considerable pressure, but everyone working in this sector is coping quite well with the tasks that the Times placed before us. At the same time, logistics and storage facilities require restoration, including with state involvement. In this regard, I ask the government to adopt an appropriate program. At the same time, it needs to be taken into account that damaged facilities should be restored at a qualitatively new technological level. A separate area is the construction of power grids and generating facilities. This is also a critically important task, because as the economy, regions, and territories develop and new projects and digital services are launched, electricity consumption always increases and will continue to increase. We know this very well.
Dear Ukrainians, this morning the Russians struck a minibus in Kherson with a drone. It was another act of brutality that the occupiers commit every day. It was absolutely clear that this was an ordinary minibus, civilian transport, but the Russians struck it anyway. Later that same day, the Russians struck Zhytomyr. It was a deliberate and treacherous attack on the regional police headquarters building. Throughout the day, another day of this war, there were also strikes on Zaporizhia, the Kharkiv region, the Sumy region, the Chernihiv region, the Donetsk region, and the Dnipropetrovsk region. Unfortunately, there are fatalities. In Kherson alone, 4 people were killed in the single strike on the minibus. In the strike on Zhytomyr, nearly 30 people were injured and 2 were killed. There have also been victims in other regions. My condolences go to all the families and loved ones of those whose lives were taken by Russian terror. My main task for Ukraine's defense minister in these conditions is to truly set up our defense system, our production and procurement system, and the system for supplying our troops. It must be organized in such a way that the defense of life in Ukraine receives everything necessary to repel Russian strikes, hold positions on the front line, conduct active operations, and deliver meaningful strikes against Russia in response to its terror, this war, and these killings, which Putin has effectively turned into a new Russian ideology. We must uproot this ideology of war. Yevhen Kamara proved through his earlier service in Alpha that he does not throw words to the wind and knows very well that occupiers are not defeated with empty promises. I expect the Ministry of Defense to expand the scope of our deep strike operations. Together with Ukrainian weapons manufacturers, it must provide greater capabilities to protect Ukraine's skies. Together with partners, it must strengthen our defensive operations and our offensive actions. There is already good cooperation between Kamara and Drapati. I thank them for this. Before winter, we in Ukraine must be confident, and we will be confident, as much as possible in our defense and in our positions. I am grateful to the members of Parliament for their strong support today for Kamara's appointment as Minister of Defense, and for their support for Andriy Sybiha's appointment as Ukraine's Foreign Minister. Our diplomacy also has very clear tasks. This concerns communication with partners that must give Ukraine greater strength, even amid the political turbulence Europe may enter with the start of the new political season. We need stable support and durable relations with our partners, and therefore modernization in the work of our diplomatic corps. Modern diplomatic tools, modern approaches to solving problems, and concrete results. I also thank everyone today for passing the law that we discussed in detail. It expands support programs for one of the most vulnerable parts of our society: families raising children with disabilities. The law guarantees increased assistance and introduces a multi-level system of state-funded social services for children. I expect the law as soon as possible for signature, and I expect the government to fully account for it in the budget. One more thing. I signed a decree awarding the title of Hero of Ukraine to Junior Lieutenant Vladislav Polsky for his swift and brave reaction in a combat situation and for saving the lives of our soldiers. On August 15th, an unquestionably heroic act took place. Vladislav used a pickup truck to rescue 2 servicemen from an area under attack by Russian drones. Our soldiers had been carrying out a combat mission and were wounded. An evacuation had begun with the help of an unmanned ground vehicle. the Russians struck that vehicle. To avoid losing lives and wasting time, Vladislav decided to act. He drove in with a pickup truck and took the wounded men out. It is an outstanding story. Great courage. An example of a commander's action that deserves to be followed. We must take care of our people. Thank you, Vladislav. And today there was also a prisoner exchange. We returned another 103 people from Russian captivity, our soldiers. It is not easy, but we continue working to ensure that exchanges take place. We are preparing the next stage of exchanges. Thank you to all our warriors, to every man and woman defending Ukraine and defending our people. It is important for all of us to work together for Ukraine and for our people. And tomorrow we are preparing serious sanctions.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Have you ever wondered what happens when a banking dynasty meets tides of world history, intrigue, and a dash of myth?
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.